love, and longing. So glad you could join me, my love. Vernon gushes as he holds Mironoir from behind. His arms cross over her stomach as he takes a deep breath of her scent. Vernon, we were together less than an hour ago. It felt like an eternity. He fake whines and she lets out a slight tittering laugh. You smell like arson. Was your war fire training going well? It did, but warring with the Empress's own flame over Hypercrete is a difficult test, even with 11 sisters on my side. Mironoir notes. Still, it's always nice to have you back, although I'm not the only one with a blushing bride in a beautiful gown today. Vernon notes as his eyes scan the village again. Every battle princess wed to a sorcerer is here, which means that shy of the Empress's palace, the most powerful army on Cerbo is here in the here and now, and that's without factoring the sorcerers themselves or the Dark Forest. The sheer amount of battle princesses are, in fact, not helping me feel any calmer, Amara Gore complains loudly. The poor woman can't help but have a bad day, can she? Vernon notes. Well, it's already bad enough she has to do an interview with the Dark Forest while within it, but meeting the neighbors involves so many battle princesses. It's all legal, but we've also politically tied her into a knot. Refusing is now a direct insult to the Empress, and she knows it. I don't think the Empress is the type to take offense if this gets a no, Vernon notes. She isn't. However, many of the noble women who scurry about to curry her favor will do just about anything to be seen striking down a potential insult or doing her some kind of favor. What did she do to get the nobility that scared of her? Vernon asks. Thousands of small things that build and build and build until the entirety of the nobility of Cerbo can barely even think of any other in her place. There are so many unnamed favors owed to the Empress from each family that she could call in one a minute and still have more at the end of a year. Well, that's certainly one way to keep everything in line. Another is you and your sisters, then me and my brothers. The fact that she's personally capable of facing just about anything they have to offer and more, Vernon notes. And that she has a habit of pointing the more quarrelsome nobles directly towards each other, and they then invariably either go too far and then beg her for mercy when she stops them, or they offer favors in order to not be defeated. It's a very old song and dance, Mironoir says. It's amazing what you learn after winning a tournament. It was like finally getting a proper education for the first time in my life. Everything else, all the training, all the learning and growing and struggling, it had all just been practice for when I was a proper grown woman. Sounds like undaunted training. It forces out all delusions of strength, invulnerability, and brainless bravado. Then it shows you just what you can do, and you learn so much about your own potential, you realize your old dreams were petty, tiny things next to reality itself, Vernon says. Now, how about we help out poor Miss Gore before she goes spare? I think that might be the kinder course of action. Mironoir agrees and they walk through the village together. So, this ramshackle little hut is an ongoing project for younger sorcerers. Yes, trial and error to learn architecture. They're getting better, but they need to work on their consistency. One or two really good buildings are very nice, but being able to make an entire village of acceptable ones is much more practical. After that, it's a matter of increasing their own standards until the houses they can slap together in their sleep are at the level of very good, Dale explains. Will the children be learning this as well? Eventually. Architecture is a useful skill, one that ties in with sorcery very well and can see them all gainfully employed later in life, unless something else strikes their fancy. And if they do, what happens if one of the girls wants to be, let's say, a doctor? We can have entire courses downloaded with ease. Home learning is quite simple. And the need for socialization beyond this small community? With the dark forest allowing them, they can go to any number of towns and cities at its borders, or even directly to the Empress Palace if they so desire. I don't think trespassing in Her Majesty's home is a wise course of action, Amara Gore says in a somewhat tart tone. It depends on whether they're invited, Dale remarks. Very much so, she answers. Now, Oh, hello again, Princess and Sorcerer. Ma'am, Vernon says with a nod. I do hope you're not fixated too much on the children's do-it-yourself project. Honestly, it's about the only thing around here I can classify as properly dangerous. The river, while swift, is shallow enough that it won't reach even the shortest child's waist. And the stones are lacking any of the kind of film that makes them slippery, not to mention the numerous bridges of different design you have over it. Amara Gore begins. All the buildings are sturdy with flimsy walls, but powerful support beams, and to be quite frank, it seems the children will be a greater danger to the village than the village to the children, if it wasn't all composed of living dark forest material. Yes, it's quite the thing. Mr. Shea, I don't think you appreciate just how surreal this all is to me. This situation, while completely absurd, has the hallmarks of a good placement, despite the fact that the prospective parent figure is of no actual species and is, in truth, a gestalt consciousness of a massive geographical location. And it gets even weirder, considering that it's the effective father of some of the most terrifying warriors and murderers to ever crawl out of the darkness of my species' deepest nightmares. Yes, I mean, technically, the food that will be fed to the children are in essence part of the foster parent's own body. That's absurd. But at the same time, there's nothing in the law against such a thing. It's not cannibalism. It's a communal entity. It's sheer insanity. Amara Gore rants for a moment before taking a deep breath. But that's just the strangeness here, isn't it? All nature is connected, it's just a little more literal here, Vernon says, and Amara Gore cocks an eyebrow. A little more literal here. Well, I must say, you have a gift for understatement, she says before she takes a few steps to sit on the front steps of one of the buildings and sighs deeply as she tries to sort things out. This situation is beyond my full understanding. For the adoptive guardian of a child to be not only a singular being, but also the home they're staying in, the food being served to them, and the elder siblings that will help rear them is a lot to take in. Sorry, Vernon states, and she waves him off. Don't be. This is quite literally the job I've been trained for. It's just a great deal more alien than I was ever able to consider, let alone prepare for. I just need some time after this to fully digest what I'm about to do. And that is? Mironoir asks. I'm approving this. The Dark Forest has proven attentive, awash with resources and more than capable of protecting, teaching, nurturing, and guiding the children. Especially if it's children, the sorcerers, and their own families, often including pillars of local communities, if not outright battle princesses, are going to assist. We will, Vernon assures her. Then get ready, because you have a small army worth of quarrelsome children moving in, Amara Gore says before standing up. Now, take me back to my office. I need to file this all properly first. Very well. Your hand, please, madam, Vernon asks, holding out his own. She takes it and they're both gone in a wood walk. So, think the rest of them are going to handle things well? Mironoir asks. She and Vernon were staying out of the first introduction of the children to the Dark Forest. The bad first impressions they had given the children was something they were keeping well away from the rest, at least until things calmed down enough for a bad first impression to be swept away. So they were taking things nice and easy with their children. Or rather, they were taking tiny little strips of meat, more the little strands of a properly scratched and well-cooked bit of meat, and seeing if anyone had any favorites. So far the answer was no, beyond favoring meat more than milk. Still, There were dozens of easily accessible varieties to slowly cook and serve through in tiny, tasty portions that wouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell of choking any of their little sweethearts. "What do you think? Do you girls like landrack?" Vernon asks, as he has a handful of tiny strands of the meat and hands some off to each little lady who, in turn, promptly shove it into their mouths without hesitation. Another winner all around, which means that our girls aren't picky so long as it's meat. Perhaps the slow-cooked fish next? It's certainly soft enough for them to gum to bits, even in bigger chunks. Meowing offers and he nods. "We'll have to be ready for that one, but it's a good idea. So long as we get the little crunchy bits off," he replies. "Of course, they make some of the best stock, those bits." Meowing replies, and a few minutes later, tiny slices of a well-cooked fish are presented to each of the girls. Oh dear, they're not choosy at all. However, will we find a proper bribe when they're older? They'll pick something up. Until then, though, we're lucky enough to have little in the way of picky eaters, so we won't get anything silly like a full plate in front of a little girl who's hungry but won't eat. Vernon notes, and Meowing pats him on the head. "Your endless optimism will never not be charming," she assures him. She woke up in a strange place, tucked into a strange bed. Last she remembered, the police were coming. A raid. The barley must have done something, again. Monsters that look like people, with great gaping black holes of null where their hearts should be. That's all the barleys were. Fake Apuk pretending. Her mother had told her, warned her, and has been trying to keep her safe from them. The floor she's on is weird. It feels like some kind of bouncy wood or reed mat. She pats it a few times and it's unfamiliar. She glances around and lets out a puff of red war fire with a few blue sparks and nothing. The mat is unburnt. It's fine, but it's wood, isn't it? Everything about the room is weird. There's a window, but no doors anywhere. Is she a prisoner? She must be. She was at a police station after all. They're all barless stooges, bought and paid for by monsters. You can't trust any of them. She starts walking around and finds a switch and a dial on a wall. One turns on and off the lights in the ceiling. The dial slowly changes the temperature of the room. She fiddles with them both, trying to figure things out and getting the room to a really nice temperature, then loses interest. "Hello? Can anyone hear me?" she calls out and starts banging on the walls. The nearest one bangs really weird and bounces and jiggles. Is it even a wall? "Who's there?" someone calls out from nearby. She doesn't recognize the voice. "Vali Harkle," she calls back with her arms crossed. "So you did this! Where am I, you evil Harkle? You'll regret kidnapping a Jate Barlease," the other kid shouts. "Me! You're the one who kidnapped me. Where did you take me?" Vali Harkle shouts back. "Don't play dumb. You Harkle are evil. Only a Harkle would do something this weird and twisted." Jate Barlease hollers in return and bangs her fists on her own jittering wall. "Hey, this thing slides." Vali Harkle wastes no time and pulls on the door. It doesn't move, so she gives it a push. It slides out of the way without a problem. She steps out at the same time as Jate Barlease, and her eyes narrow at the sight of the fake Apuk girl. The witch even has the gall to copy her face. If she didn't get the hair color wrong as dirt brown instead of black, then she could have replaced her and really hurt her family. "Face stealer," Jate Barlease roars as she charges Vali Harkle, who countercharges with a wordless war cry. Just before they hit each other, they're suddenly past each other and staggering to stop. "What? Hey? What's going on?" another new voice asks, and there's the sound of smacking lips. "Wait, where am I?"